All right, at this time, I want to welcome in my guest, Amber and Collette. How are you guys?
Amazing. How are you?
Good.
I'm good. I'm good. All right, so Amber and Collette are here with me today to talk about relationship stuff, all things good. Obviously, with every relationship, there's certain challenges. For example, like if you marry a doctor or a dentist, you kind of have this idea you're looking at maybe anywhere between 8 to 12 years of school. Depending on specialties, maybe you got a residency thrown in there. So you have this window of time, though, where you know you kind of, okay, we might have to sacrifice or struggle, but ultimately in the end, you're probably going to have a fairly decent lifestyle, you know, at the end of something like that. So you kind of prepare mentally, okay, this is what I got to do. This is the time frame, and I can kind of accept that and then sort of just get through it, right? However, though, in the case of Amber and Collette, with an entrepreneurial type husband, things can be a little bit different, right? I mean, there's definitely sacrifices that you have to make, but it's also hard to predict kind of like that payoff point, whether that's 1, 3, 5, 10 years, who knows sometimes kind of what it will take. And that's kind of obviously why I brought you both here, is to talk about your experiences with your spouses as entrepreneurs and some of the experience that you have, and also just some of the advice that you have for people that, I mean, obviously are in relationships, but in relationships that are similar to yours, because obviously it's a little bit unique from that perspective of, you know, the predictability and kind of like some of the ups and downs that entrepreneurs face. So my first question, though, is like, did you guys both know kind of what you were getting into? Collette, why don't you start with that? What did you know what you were getting into at the time that you married your husband?
No, I did not know what I was getting into. But with that being said, life is an adventure. And so I feel like when you're first married and you're going in together of learning how, so when Russell and I first got married, he was still going to school at Boise State and finishing up his degree. And he wasn't allowed to really work until he was done wrestling, because that would kind of throw off his scholarship. So at first I kind of held down the fort a little bit. And then as I was doing that, he started thinking, but his mind's always been entrepreneurial, but he was like, how can I help bring in some income? So I'm like, heck yes, do it. You figure that out and let's make some extra income so I can quit one of my jobs.
Right.
And so in the beginning, it's super fun and exciting. And I feel like with all of the ups and downs in the beginning of just getting your toes wet and failing at something and getting back up and picking up and go with all the different ideas, I felt like I lived in this little bubble. I was just like, heck yes, keep going, figure it out. Because I knew he was cut from a different thread. I think I knew that from the very beginning. I cut differently than an average 9-to-5 type mind. And yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I was along for the ride.
Okay. So you kind of had this sense that he had this in him, and he just was like, this is who he was going to be. I guess in terms of maybe and we can get into that later, but some of the ups and downs, maybe obviously that's harder to predict, but like just knowing that, hey, he wants to be this person that's going to be adventurous and kind of create something, you were well aware of that dynamic prior to.
And then pre-children too, I still carried a job until I was put down on bed rest when we found out we were having twins, and then really had to pick it up and figure out
how he was going to make this work. Okay. All right. What about for you, Amber? Your experience maybe, I think, was a little bit different as far as like where things started and kind of how you got into more of this, I guess, ride. And I should point out, I probably, you know, if I failed to do that, Collette and Amber, their husbands both work in the same company. Russell is the co-founder technically, or the founder of ClickFunnels, and Brent is a partner in ClickFunnels and a director of operations. So that's they're connected in multiple ways. So anyway, Amber, what was things like for you early on, or did you kind of really recognize what you were getting into early on in the process?
Well, so our first experience, Brent was in his master's getting marriage and family therapy.
Right. He was supposed to be my buddy.
And he was working part-time for Russell. And then as that relationship grew and Brent was needed more in the office. And I remember Russell, talking to both of us, mainly me, just because that changed the course of, our direction and focus. But Brent ultimately dropped out of that program and then went to work full time with Russell and traveling and doing those things. And obviously I didn't really fully understand what they were doing. But we had a love and a great friendship and relationship with Russell and Collette that we were all along for the ride we were in for it.
Right. I mean, so was it hard for you to transition from something, again, like that maybe you would have considered more stable to something more uncertain, or did you really even kind of maybe grasp the uncertainty when it first started, or?
No, I didn't grasp it at all. I was like,
ignorance
I really
bliss,
understand
right?
everything. And Brent's like, I gotta work more, and I can't be going to school and doing these projects. I remember doing the projects for him because I didn't want him to drop out of the program quite yet. And he was like, Amber, this is like getting ridiculous. Like, I just got to drop out of the program. So I didn't fully understand what
was ahead.
Faith into Russell.
Right. Well, obviously it was a good person to have a leap of faith into, but so then back to you then, Collette. What, obviously there's highs and lows along the process in terms of like being in this entrepreneurial kind of life. If you don't mind sharing, like what were some of the lower points that you remember, like some of the more challenging times that you guys experienced?
Well, I'm going to start off saying I learned a lot from Russell Brunson when I actually sat through the ClickFunnels event. I believe, was it in Dallas? And I'm sitting there in the audience as he's telling the story of some things that he went through alone.
You're like, you hadn't heard before?
I hadn't heard before. And he did that to protect me from the stress and the scare. I knew we had some hard times and I could see it in his eyes, but I didn't know how bad until they were really bad. And some of the ups and downs, it's a journey. You hit a goal and then you slip back down and come back up and you hit another idea and slip back down and go. And I just remember him always coming to me and saying, this is it. This is the one. This is the one. And then it would fail. And so every time he would come to me and say, this is it, I would just kind of give him a loving hug and be like, I love you, and keep trying. But I kept that faith in him until I always had that faith. And this dark, hard, scary time was when our company took a major hit and we had to lay off 100 employees, and Brent was the one that stuck by his side the whole time and had those hard conversations with Russell and said, just kind of helped him see clearly the next path that needed to be taken, which I am so thankful for the Coppieters. Anyway, just direction and the help there. But I remember that morning when Russell got up and I could tell there was a major defeat and I didn't know exactly what was going on. And so I grabbed him and we hit our knees and we said a prayer for him to get through these dark, dark times. And part of those dark times getting through that were the Coppieters, Brent and Amber, just keeping us going strong, because that was a pretty hard hit.
Yeah.
But taking those hard hits is how you grow. And because I remember my boys, they're twins, their birthday's in December. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, we should go to Disneyland. We need to go do these fun things. And he's like, we're broke. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what? Because we didn't have a direct line of communication. He kept a lot of that for our safety reasons, I think, just so I wouldn't panic. His brain works fast into the next thing, and it really did work fast into the next little
Right. So it's like, this isn't working. So I'm already thinking about the next thing. So I'm hoping I've already got my faith in maybe the next thing versus like worrying about what's behind me now, but I'm not necessarily sharing with you, which, you know, I mean, like I said, it's working fast, but obviously in those moments where it's like, okay, like I said, and I remember I was at the most recent ClickFunnels event, and also I've heard this from other, I think when I did the 100-day or the 30-day challenge, the video of him telling the story of laying off the people, laying off all the employees, that was a part of that. And so yeah, definitely a difficult moment where you're, it's I guess a bigger crash, but then as a spouse and kind of having to support them through that, I'm sure that's more of a reality that now I'm okay. Now this must be bad, or this is harder or more difficult in those moments, rather than just maybe some of the ups and downs that go throughout a day, or this product didn't work, or this thing didn't go as well. But now it's like, okay, this is like people and lives and jobs and whatever, and there's a lot more going on and a lot more emotion. And so I'm sure he probably needed to lean on you a little bit more in that time as well too, right?
Yeah, no, he really did. And yeah, he really did. And it was good. It was a good growing point in our marriage for sure once it did come out. But like I said, I didn't know all of the details.
Right.
Until that one event I was sitting in, and I'm sitting in the audience bawling my eyes out thinking, oh my gosh, you were alone, like majorly alone. But that's where Brent is such a blessing in his life, because he really stuck by his side through the worst down.
Right. Yeah. All right. So Amber, so what was that? I mean, maybe take us through kind of that moment for you, or that time when things were kind of falling apart, or the company, was laying off all these people. What was your experience like on your end?
Panic. I thought, okay, well, I don't want to ruin our relationship with Russell and Collette, and I don't want them to feel like that they owe it to us to keep Brent on or to keep working with Brent. And so a lot of times I'd be like, I don't want them to have added stress because of us. So, but obviously I wasn't working in the office, so I didn't obviously have that work relationship with Russell where Brent had. And he just really kind of told me, Amber, things are going to be okay. And more than anything, my friend needs me. And so I'm going to stick with him. I'm going to do whatever it takes we're going to figure this out. We're going to work this out and figure it out. I actually was doing some support for the company, like help, like the customer support. And I remember like when they had let everybody go, and then they decided to bring John Parks back on. And I went into the office and I was just simply like kind of telling him, these are the things that you do for customer support. And now, I mean, John is a partner in the company. And so it just goes to show, really not losing faith and just going with that underlying feeling. I mean, thank goodness Brent was in tune with that feeling. And
right. I just say, because I think I remember hearing the story that you were like, hey, here's some jobs to go apply for, or something like that.
You just need to go apply for, like, here, try this one.
Why did you stop being a marriage and family therapist?
Yeah. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And he's like, Amber, you have to stop. Like, and I was like, I just don't want Russell and Collette to be feeling that obligation. They already have enough stress. I don't want it to ruin our relationship. But he had a whole different perspective of actually how to support Russell in that time, which I'm thankful that I shut my mouth and just allowed him to do that, because he knew what needed to be done.
Yeah. So then I'm going to stick with you then on this one then. So individually, so here you are, you're trying to be supportive, you're trying just to kind of act in this sort of good faith of like, okay, this is what you're telling me, so I'm just going to go with it. Same thing with, obviously, with you, Collette, you're trying to keep that faith with your spouse. So how did you personally get through those difficult times? Because obviously they're doing their thing, or they're trying to do their thing, but how did you get through that yourself?
So I've been kind of thinking about that because when you're in it, I think that you maybe think that, oh my gosh, this is so hard, but looking back, it's like, wow, like it wasn't that hard. And looking back, I know that I obviously relied heavily upon my faith and prayer.
Mhm.
But I also, sometimes to put the panic to quiet, I would go search for jobs for myself and be like, okay, I just got to go back to work. And then looking at it, it's like, okay, I have these little kids at home. That's not a realistic answer. But I allowed that panic to kind of play out and kind of allow me to say, okay, well, if worse came to worse and this didn't work, I could go get a job here, or I could go do this, kind of like this. And that put my panic to, calm. And then I was able to just support Brent in those times, and just kind of, obviously it never came to that, but it put my panic at ease. And then relying on my faith and taking care of my kids kept me busy to just kind of work through those hard times.
Okay. What about for you, Collette?
Yeah, I really did. Like I said, I feel like I lived in this little bubble, but the feeling of, I don't know, I didn't have a feeling of panic. I just had a feeling of like, my heart was broken for the other families. And because you kind of go there, you think of everybody's lives that have been affected. And we had some family members' lives that had been affected with that were working with the company as well. And I think that was the hardest part for me, was thinking of everybody else, and how it affected them or their family, and where they needed to go from there. But then once it started slowly, like kind of picking up, and Russell's brain really is fully functioning all of the time. And I just remember him always having these aha moments, or these moments of, I don't know, I was just comforted in those scary, dark times. But at the same time, you do look back and you're like, oh my gosh, how, because people come up to me all the time. They're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I really don't know. I just did it.
Mhm.
Kind of go with each little bump and bruise that comes along. And oh my goodness, when you do have your family and you're thinking, are we going to be okay? Like, is this, where is this going to take us, and what's going to happen? But I felt a sense of peace. But too, I kind of go back to Brent being by his side the whole time. And that's a completely different story for Amber, because having the faith and just, I don't know, just having that faith to believe in what's to come, or things like that. And I think for them in our lives was a major comfort to me.
Mhm.
We kind of had each other to lean on, I think. So.
Okay. I mean, that's good. I mean, that's obviously having somebody, yeah. I mean, I think even like when you kind of like, just to relate it to other situations and couples and stuff and people that go through similar things. I mean, I've seen other people, like, again, what I mentioned, like kind of go through medical school or different things like that. You kind of gravitate to people that are in the same boat as you, right? I mean, as a support. So it's like, I mean, I know, like when I was doing my master's program, like we lived in an apartment complex and there were some other couples that their husbands were doing their masters or whatever. And it's like, yeah, the wives just kind of hung out, and you just sort of like, that's what you do. You try to lean on each other as you're going through this time, whether, it's like, hey, we're all poor or we're doing whatever, and we're trying to just make the best of it. So I'm sure it's kind of like that in the same way, where you have these people that, okay, their husbands are in it with us and we're in it together, and we just try to lean on each other and make the best of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, we were in it together. So thank
Mhm.
you, Amber, for
Yes, thank you.
working through that.
We had sleepovers and dinner nights and play dates that kept us going.
Right. Well, that's good. You gotta keep sane. Otherwise it's, yeah. And I think the other thing is too, is like, it's hard. And I mean, as far as like, especially when you're resetting after a loss and trying, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of long hours that your husbands were putting in and trying to, get things back going. So, I mean, do you feel like that was the best way that you could support them, is just by, okay, we're gonna do the best we can to, make sure the family's good and everything's taken care of there, and so that you can go and kind of focus. I mean, that kind of the primary way you were supporting them at that time then, is just, okay, we'll take it on this end and you guys just kind of do your thing?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Just kind of go full throttle. But that's where our village, our tribe comes into play, because
Mhm.
the timelines, my mind, time is crazy in the timeline of events, but Amber and I really did. We pulled together, and when our husbands did have to travel or they were working super late in the night, sometimes we really relied on each other. And there were times that I remember Amber coming over with her small family, and we would sleep over, have a sleepover, and have each other's backs, because it was hard. We had little babies, and so I think it was really important for us to have a connection of support for each other
Right.
during some of all of that.
Yeah.
You just concur, Amber? Any thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. The sleepovers, I think the dinners, like just planning our dinners together and stuff, just, it made life a lot easier, and it helped maybe me stay outside of my brain and just have fun and be positive, and supporting Brent by being positive during those times.
Yeah. Did you ever get a little negative?
Yeah. But during a hard time, I had to be negative to myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that didn't help.
All right. Okay. Just want to know that you got some humanness in there. There's not, you know.
Way too much.
All right. Well, let's shift a little bit then to some happier times. So now, if people are not aware of ClickFunnels and the success that ClickFunnels has had, it's definitely in a good place right now, and things are much better than they were several years ago as far as things go. But also at the same time, I think with happy times, things can come with a price with good times as well, with success. So what's that been like for both of you? Amber, if you want to start, what's that been like?
I think obviously it has shifted from when our kids were little. And so our needs have changed, because now we have some teenagers, and so it's just kind of, our family dynamic has changed. And then also his work schedule has kind of a little bit changed. And I think that just trying to find maybe better communication between each other, because, you know, you can be talking to each other, but communication seems like such a broad word. I mean, you have to communicate kind of in a different way.
Well, and I was going to get to this, but we can talk about this now too. It's like, you know, it's like kind of what, I mean, I think to me, when I think about communication, I think more, especially in these situations, like more like, how do you stay connected? Like, what do you guys do to keep that connection between the two of you in a good place?
Yeah, I think that, you know, for us, sometimes our time is limited and sometimes we have more time, but I think that, you know, sometimes we watch just a good show, a good series that we can like stay up way too late and then hours watching, or communicating more so about what we need or want, rather than just assuming that the other one should know. You know, just get to it and, okay, this is actually what I need from you right now. You only have this amount of time. This is what I need from you. And, or, you know, vice versa, you know, that he can communicate and say, this is what I'm needing right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Collette? What is the happier times kind of brought for you as far as the success? I mean, like what good things and challenges as the success of the company kind of brought?
Oh man, there's so many things. I feel like it's definitely grown. So now that it's kind of built, this little community has built quite fast, and it's been really fun to see. And I think some of the happy things for me are giving back. Our communication, I feel like we're doing a lot better than we did in the very beginning. I feel like that's something that we always are still kind of working on.
I know a therapist.
Yes. I need some help, so let's see what we can talk about here today. No, but like we really do. We've been super mindful lately of trying to schedule better quality time together. Whether it's just a date night. We haven't been as consistent as I would like to be, but I think that just comes with an entrepreneurial lifestyle.
Yeah.
Go. But yeah, I'm a big quality time acts of service type of person. And so when I do get that time with Russell, it's really special, and we try to make the very most of it. I think I learn a lot from other spouses. And so I think for Funnel Hacking Live for me too is I love being there and sitting in the audience and listening to all of the event, because it fills my bucket and my appreciation for Russell and everything that he's built. And so for me, it comes from a place of gratitude too, like trying to sit back, because some days he always tells me I'm the person he's trying to impress the most. And sometimes I feel like I don't acknowledge that. And so I've really been trying lately to acknowledge that. Really, he's like, I'm just doing all of this for you. And I'm like, well, I love and appreciate you no matter what. Like if everything was gone tomorrow, I would love you just the same.
Right.
So it's always a fun, I think every stage of life, every season of life too, has been fun to learn to navigate, especially as we're coming into the teenager years and I feel like they're taking up a little bit more of our time, and or learning how to navigate time as kids stay up later and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
All the happy times, they've been super happy. We've been able to do some crazy, amazing things. And I think the hardest part for me sometimes is that our children worry about what others think. And so they're like, we're the rich kids. And I'm like, you're not rich. Daddy's rich. You're poor. So you can tell your friends.
You don't have nothing.
You have nothing. You can come and play.
Right.
But it's just funny, like the different mindsets that come from myself or my children, and just learning how to navigate what each chapter of this crazy life brings, I guess.
Well, and that I'm glad you bring that up. Not necessarily we have to delve into that part of it, but I think like that's kind of what my point was, is that, you know, with some of the early challenges and the lows and maybe some of the failures, I guess, you know, that has its own challenges, and then success comes with its own challenges. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, we get like, you know, I'll definitely admit I've been a voyeur into, you know, I watch, you know, Russell's Instagrams and his videos and stuff. And it's like, I mean, seeing some of the cool places and stuff like that, I mean, that's exciting. And you know, you guys get to go on some of those trips and do some of those things. And so that part's great. But then, like you said, then we have this other side where, you know, our kids have been exposed to this world that's a little bit sometimes phantasaic like or whatever, you know, and so being able to help them navigate through some of those things, I'm sure it comes with its own challenges, right? As far as that goes. So, I mean, yeah, anyway, I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah. Have you experienced any of that, Amber, or kind of the same type of thing, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the kids think money is just easily accessible and they can forget where we came from first.
Right.
Or they forget hard work.
All the hard work. Like, that just didn't happen like with right. Yeah.
And they have to, you know, if they want to be successful in their lives, they need to exercise that tool. They need to get out and do some hard work too.
Right. You got plans for that? Is that what you're telling? You got some plans in the works, or?
Yep, we got it.
Right. All right. So I mean, those are all, you know, like I said, some of the, I mean, not all of them, but I mean, those are some of the definitely the challenge that come with success, but at the same time, and Collette, this is more for you, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, because, you know, just being at the most recent Funnel Hacking Live event and just kind of seeing that nature. I mean, really in that world, obviously your husband is a rock star. Brent's kind of more behind the scenes kind of person, even though I see, you know, people come up to him, talk to him, but he's more behind the scenes. Obviously your husband's out front and center. He's more like a rock star in that culture. So when you kind of see people sort of, you know, like, I guess just kind of pining for his attention, whatever, do you ever have a hard time with that part of it? Or is that just something you just kind of like, okay, that's just a part of it, and I just kind of go with it, or how's that for you?
Oh, it's weird. I do
Uh-huh.
go with it. But like sometimes when you are traveling and you're in the airport and someone's like, oh my gosh, it's Russell Brunson. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny to me. And it still gets me every time. But yes,
Mhm.
after being at a big event where everybody's, oh my gosh, he walks out on stage and everybody's going crazy wild and cheering and screaming. And
Mhm.
it really does blow my mind that that's because he's not outgoing. He's an introvert. And
Mhm.
so to see him on stage and jump into that extroverted, person that he is and charismatic character and just touch other people's lives. So yeah, it's I always
A little
giggle.
different.
I don't know if I'll ever get used to it. It's kind of a
Mhm.
funny thing to me, but
Right.
I don't understand the marketing side of it, but it changes people's lives and I totally get it. And the software company changes people's lives. And
Yeah, I was going to say, should I give you guys a test on what ClickFunnels actually is? Should we do a test on that?
oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's a software company that
Right.
Teaches you how to market.
how to market. You can click and drag. And
I think I've been asking Brent that question for years. What do you do? And I don't even know if Brent ever answers me the right way.
I think
So
he just automatically thinks it's in your head. I'm not even going to waste my time.
So yeah. All right. Okay. So the other thing, I think you guys did talk about it just as far as like, so when it comes to though keeping your relationship, and we talked about kind of like Collette, you mentioned quality time and just kind of really, acts of service and those things are ways that you kind of try to stay connected. Are there other things that you guys do that maybe you can share with other people in the same situations? Like what do you think are some of the most important things that you need to do to kind of maintain a relationship that is kind of in this dynamic? Amber, we'll start with you.
Okay. Well, I think that obviously it goes up and down. We figure out kind of what works and then it changes. But for us, I think, and it sounds kind of silly, but to kind of think of the other person. Sometimes when Brent's been traveling, and I've had to stay back and not get to partake in like the really cool experiences.
Right. We missed you, by the way.
Yeah. And that wasn't the first time I get to like miss out on some cool things. But
Right.
I think it was a while back at another FA funnel hacking live that I didn't get to go to. And Marcus Lemonis was there.
Mhm.
And we used to always watch his show, The Prophet. And anyways, I was really bummed that I was going to miss meeting him. And it always happens when Brent goes out of town, like either kids get sick or at that particular time, my daughter got head lice.
Oh.
So I'm like doing laundry and cleaning and kids are sick. And but he took the time to actually talk to Marcus and have him make like a little video for me. And so just that little act of like, a 1-minute video totally changed my perspective of, oh, he thinks about me. He loves me. He cares about me. I can do this. I can clean up and go through my daughter's hair full of lice. And it's okay. It's worth it.
Right.
So I don't know.
He's not a total jackass.
Yeah, like, totally. Or when he's like, eating these awesome dinners or whatever. I think just both of us, if we think about the other one and kind of put ourselves in their shoes and think, what's something that I can do to help them know that I'm thinking of them, makes a big, huge difference. Even just little things, a little text or something. Hey, I'm thinking about you. I miss you. I wish I was with you. Those help and go a long way.
Okay, that's awesome. I think that's great. What about for you, Collette? What would anything that you would share or things that you guys do to try to do the same? Or
well, Russell's super duper addicted to an app called Vox.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we use that app a lot. And so when he does travel or he's not at home, we use that as videos of kids and things like that. But I think Amber said it and I can duplicate what she just said, but yeah, I'm at a place right now where I have been able to travel a little bit more with Russell. And that's been really fun for me to feel my gratitude back up for him and really see everything that goes into just everything that's put into these events or travel, or let's say this book launch now that they're really killing themselves on. But it's really cool because he does include me. Like I'll get a message, like I just got a message of him sitting with, you know, whatever interview they just got finished up with, and he'll kind of journal to me what has happened, and he really keeps me in the loop. And at the same time, he's like, you know, at the same time, I kind of do the same for him, you know, with whether it's soccer practice and you give a little clip of life. But I don't know. I feel so, this is kind of detouring a little bit, but Russell's such an involved dad, and it blows my mind how hard he works to make entrepreneurship happen, but then come home and be a dad and then stay up another couple of hours and work and finish up whatever is needing to be done, and then get up at 5 a.m. to go work out and keep going. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how, to me, it still boggles my mind. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if I'll ever understand, but I support him. And I think it's pretty awesome for our kids to see him work that hard with all things, work, family, health. And, but man, he puts his all, his 100% into everything that he does. And that's a testament to me sometimes too, because I feel like, I'm like, oh, good, you're here home to play with the kids. Peace out. I'm going to go finish up whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I got to be out there playing and jumping and having a good time. So for me personally, it's me being more mindful of the time spent when he's here playing with the kiddos as well, because I feel like I take advantage of that sometimes. Is that a long roundabout way of?
No, that's good. No, that's good. So one thing as you guys are both talking too, I was thinking about like a recent episode I did on the 6 kind of basic needs within ourselves and relationships. And the 6 needs are love and connection, significance, certainty, and comfort, variety, growth, and contribution. And when we think about those things, I just am curious, I know I didn't prep you for this one or anything, but when you think about those needs as far as like your relationship, love, connection, significance, certainty and comfort, variety, growth, contribution, what are the 1 or 2 needs that you feel like kind of like keep you going, or the needs that you like, I guess maybe either have like with your relationship, or like kind of like what Amber was saying, you know, like when we kind of think about each other, it's almost like you have this way of feeling significant. Okay, I haven't lost that sense of significance, and all the kind of, you know, bright lights and places that we're going and fancy dinners. It's like, I can still feel like I'm significant to him when those little moments happen. So out of those needs, I mean, is there one that sort of stands out for you? Like when this happens, like it really does it for me when I have that sense of feeling significant, or like, this is the way I kind of feel this sense of love. Any thoughts about that, or anything that stands out for you, Collette or Amber?
I think the 2 that stand out for me the most right now are love and connection and growth.
Okay.
Love and connection personally, just because I feel like we're starting this crazy phase of life where, I mean, my baby will be 5, and then we have 14-year-old boys, and just being able to, I don't know, just a whole new level of love and appreciation throughout the years, I think. And then for me personally, growth for myself personally. I feel like, I don't know if this is the direction, but
yeah, it is. Yeah.
For me personally, I feel lost. Like I've been lost in myself. So for having our family, and you just kind of do all the family things and kid things, and you support your husband and you serve, and you're kind of this an unseen hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me this year, it's kind of my year of growth in trying to figure out who I am again outside of Russell Brunson.
Right. No, that's, I mean, I think that's I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's a huge thing. And kind of like how you said, it's like, who am I like for myself. And so much of, I'm sure, like you said, just being, you know, in the years of support and sacrifice and doing for them so that they can be successful. But then again, you can kind of lose yourself and like who I am and what's important to me, and not that you don't still have some of the same, obviously your kids, your family, you know, is still important, but as far as meeting my own needs and who I want to be or what kind of mark I want to leave as an individual. I mean, I think that's great. I think that's an important part of life for all of us, right?
Yeah, but then also growing closer to Russell by learning more about the calls,
Right.
really what it's all about and things like that.
Mhm.
So it's been really good for me, and I'm super excited for this year to really dive in and dissect that, because I think that's part of our communication problem, is that I talk about family life here and then I don't understand the marketing talk.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
we have a hard time connecting. So I'm super excited for the love and connection at a deeper level with each
The
other's
growth and yeah.
things.
Awesome. That's great. What about for you, Amber? Any of those that stuck out?
I think like all of them.
Okay.
Like, oh wow,
You're
I'm
so
like
needy,
really
Amber.
needy
You're
wife
so
because
needy.
I need all of them. I'm like, I know. I think definitely love, and I don't know. Like, was one contribution?
Mhm.
Yeah, like that's kind of like a more of a giving back type of thing or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. Like, just my thought when you said contribution, I just thought, definitely in my life, I feel like, you know, how can I contribute not just in my marriage, but my relationships with my children, and then my relationship with society, and what does that role look like for me? And yeah, I think that is a big thing. Obviously, connection or significance, that is a big thing. Just knowing, you know, when Brent's going out and doing all these things or meeting these cool people, that me being home taking care of some of the not so
Right.
glamorous things is still significant too.
Yeah, still matters. It's important. Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but when they make it, you know,
Right.
feel like
Right.
make
When he
it
redeems
different.
himself and does something, then it makes it worth it. Right. Right. No, I think when you bring up the contribution thing too, I think that's a really, that out of all the needs, I mean, contribution and giving back is really one that can be fulfilling in all the other ways. It's a way that we, you know, not only just, and then I think I was amazed too when I went to the ClickFunnels events, just like, I mean, people, when you want to talk about building a successful business, you got to also be thinking about, how do I give back? How do I contribute? How do I give to others? And it's not just like, how much money can I make and just me. It's, I mean, they are very invested in giving back and, you know, putting back into other, you know, charities and different things like that. So it's like, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, as far as even just, you know, being able to contribute to others, but also I think for you, like you said, like we also have to do things for ourselves to help, you know, that sense of fulfillment with our own lives. Right. You know, cause we've been, like I said, and what Collette said, we've been sacrificing and giving up, and now, you know, we need to also take some of that growth and different things for ourselves so that we can feel a greater sense of fulfillment too. Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. All right. Any final thoughts or things that you guys would offer up to anybody that's out there going through something similar or in a similar state, or just in general?
Gosh, I don't know, Amber. Do you have anything on the top of your head? I would say it's a crazy wild ride, and you're either in, you have to choose. You know, you have a choice, because the mindset we all have can really keep us going. And I think that's been a blessing for me, is that a positive mindset. And I mean, because sometimes, I mean, yeah, there's dark days. Who doesn't have a dark day? We're all human.
Right.
Yeah, I just say a positive mindset. It's really a hard journey, and you can either support each other, or it's gonna be fighting and horrible. And we chose
Right.
to get through it together, and yeah, just be positive and positive things. It
Right.
keeps the mind real. It's a really powerful tool. So positive
Yeah.
mind.
Okay.
I
You can.
would agree that positive mindset makes a huge difference. Even on those dark days, you can find something positive, or, you know, the days that you don't want to get out of bed, to just try and do something, and to find those positive things or things that you're thankful for can sometimes pull you out of those dark times and help you to realize, okay, even amongst this hard trial that I'm faced with, I can still find something that I'm thankful for.
Yeah. I really like that, like both of what both you're saying, is to kind of put it in my own terms. It's like, I think when I see people in similar situations and I work with them, it's like, you know, in some sense, like I said, you signed up for this, you made the decision to kind of follow this path, and good or bad, it's going to come with both. And you just have to be all in yourself, and you have to just dive in and say, okay, with whatever comes, I have to make that decision. I have to make that choice, and just be all in and be with it. And that's what it is. You know, this is what I'm, you know, just like the person that, you know, marries somebody going to medical school or whatever. It's like, okay, I realize this is what I'm signing up for. It's going to be 8, 10, 12 years before maybe he works or earns a paycheck or whatever it is. So I can't, you know, 7 years into it, and I'm like, if I'm like, you know, what the hell, what's going on here? It's like, no, this is, you know, this is what it was, you know, this is what you took on or what you chose. And so having that mindset, or having that positivity of like, yeah, there's going to be maybe some days where it's not as easy to accept or take on, but overall, this is what we chose, and we got to take the good with the bad, right?
Take the good with the bad. And I'll put a little plug in for a therapist or counseling or coaching.
Right. Thank you.
We've been there.
Yes.
So don't think we haven't ever had one. The Brunsons have been to therapy.
Okay. Well, that's good. No, I appreciate that. And just on a side note too, I think when you talk about growth and doing things, Collette has her own podcast that she's been doing. Do you want to just give a little plug for that too?
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, we just started a podcast for women, sharing her journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically building connection for women that feel isolated or alone. And we just have been having some amazing guests on, sharing their stories of either things that they've been through, or just how, tips
life
and
stuff.
get through life.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys both coming on. It's been awesome. You've shared some great stuff, and I think whoever is listening and whoever listens will be benefited just from understanding from a relationship standpoint, and kind of what it takes to, you know, to go, you know, to be able to have the kinds of relationships that we want to have. And it's going to take sacrifice, and it's going to take, you know, dealing with difficult things, but we can get through it, right?
You can get through hard things. That's how you grow.
Right. All right. Well, thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a sec.